Hi everybody and welcome back to Oscars Reviews. Today in a change from scheduling, instead of doing a Bonkers B movie review, I'm going to be reviewing a current release. It came out a couple of days ago. That's Supergirl. Supergirl's the second film in the DC universe, the DCU for short. Comes after Superman last summer, which I really enjoyed, and it follows on from the TV shows Creature Commandos and Peacemaker Season 2. It's directed by Craig Gillespie and it comes under the helmship of Peter Safran and James Gunn, who are shepherding this new era of the DC Universe. I'd seen a lot of negative reviews around it, so I was nervous going in. Thankfully, I really enjoyed it. It's not quite as good as Superman, but I think it's better than it's been given its credit. First of all, the cast are incredible. You have Millie Alcock, who is a fairly new actress, I think. I think she was in the first season of the Game of Thrones spin off, is it House of the Dragon? And she's incredible. What it does is it's quite a different take from Supergirl. It's actually the whole story's based off of this comic here, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King and Bilquis Everly. Um, and basically it's a Supergirl who she goes to Red Sun Planet so she can get drunk, have a party time, and essentially it follows her. Her dog is poisoned Crypto, who you saw in Superman, and she is now trying to help this little girl who wants to get vengeance on her family who were killed by a ruthless mercenary, Creme of the Yellow House. And Millie Alcock plays that version of Supergirl where she just wants to get drunk, she's trying to forget her past. She has a cousin in Superman, but she doesn't feel a kinship with him in the way that they're two very different people. She went through all the hardship of her planet exploding, blowing up, and her cousin didn't. And she plays that really well, and the arc of her character in this film, which I won't get into spoilers in this video, but the arc is really well done and it is subtle at times and she plays it off really well. She also plays the fight scenes off really well, the humour. You really do want to root for her and see her win. And so I think so far in the DCU, if you're talking the two main characters in the films, with David Cornswet as Superman, who appears in here a little bit, and Millie Alcock as Supergirl, they've nailed it out the park. They're perfect interpretations of the characters, and the actors and actresses they're doing great jobs. You've also got Jason Momoa as Lobo, who after playing Aquaman in the DCEU, Lobo's his favourite character. He says he's read all the comics. He's an intergalactic bounty hunter who swears a lot, says a lot of inappropriate things, smokes, rides a space hog, which is basically a space motorbike. He just tears up the scenery in this film. He's incredible to watch. My only problem, I think, interestingly, it wasn't in the comic the film's based on, but the writer wanted to put him in the comic, so they've put him in the film. But he's maybe in too many scenes. He has a really great sort of final line to Supergirl, and you think, what a great way for him to leave the film. And then they have to randomly have him in it again, and so I think they leaned on his character too much. It felt at times like a Supergirl and Lobo movie. Maybe it shouldn't have. Well, it definitely shouldn't have, but what you get of him in it is so much fun. So the cast are great. The story follows quite closely from the comics. I think when it actually doesn't work, this film, is because it strays from the comics. One of the things here is that the relationship between Supergirl and the little girl she's protecting, Ruth, is really well developed in the comic, and you don't see that here in the film. I think the reason for that is the runtime. I think it's about an hour and 45 minutes or so. And for a story which was told across 6 issues, um, you really got the development, you got different worlds, you got a sense of world building. It feels quite rushed in this because they're having to set up Supergirl's backstory, which is different from Superman's. They're having to set up where she is now, where she's going. They're having to tell the arc of multiple characters. I'm thrown in Lobo, and so I feel like the relationship between Supergirl and Ruth, which is really the heart of the comic, does feel shortchanged here, which is a shame. But the story is basically Mad Max Star Wars style. It's a fun space adventure. There's an incredible sequence in this, which is a fight that takes on and around a space bus, which has a really cool voice cameo from Seth Rogen. And it's basically ripped straight from the comic. And I think weirdly, where you get sort of films that are comic book adaptations and they work because they become their own thing, I think Supergirl as a movie works best when it stays to the comic. And I think changing the title, it was originally going to be called Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I think changing that title back shows they were straying from that a little. And I wish they hadn't. I wish they'd kept a bit closer to the comic. The other sequences that really stood out for me, the opening's really fun. It's a really different tone from Superman. Great song choice. Krypto and Supergirl's dynamics immediately highlighted. You immediately get a sense of who Supergirl is. It's really well done. Similarly, without going into spoilers, the final scene in this movie is superb and sets the way for the next film, next future of the DCU. I really, really enjoyed that sequence. I do struggle with some of the sequences, like the fight sequences. This is where I feel like Craig Gillespie as a director was a wrong choice. There's a fight sequence in particular where it's from the camera's basically pointed on Ruth, and all the action with Supergirl is happening in the background, and Ruth is just fairly in the centre. And so you're not seeing much of the fight, and you're just seeing Ruth look worried. I don't know if this was a budgetary thing or what, because you could do a version of that that's really interesting and engaging and have Supergirl pop round for bits, but they don't really do that, and so it just feels stilted, it feels locked off. Most of the fighting feels like this. There's a big sequence, you see it in the trailer, and it's a climactic bit in the movie where she basically starts wrecking this ship up. But the camera's quite stationary, it's quite far away from her, closed off. You don't get a sense of the impact, you don't feel the action. And that's what a lot of this film was missing for me, that I think Superman delivered better on. I felt that when Superman was flying, you were with him, it felt dynamic. At times in this film, Supergirl does sort of feel like she's just hovering about, and it looks a bit more green screen, but that's maybe to do with the fact a lot of this is set in alien planets in space. I get that would be harder to pull off. And I guess I'll jump onto the issues here, sort of segueing off of that, is that the issues mainly for me was the pacing, because there's a lot of flashbacks in this film, and they're really good. The Krypton stuff and setting up who she is, why she is the way she is. It's well done. It's really good. I actually could have done more with that. It gives you a bit of her first interaction with Superman, but it pulls off way too quickly. It should have really kept on that, gave you more of their dynamic, but for some reason it doesn't. And I think the problem is a lot of this is put through as flashbacks throughout the film, and so it actually takes you out the story. As it's developing, getting to key points, it just jumps back, and you really feel like you're getting taken out of the movie. I don't know, maybe the problem here is how big this story is and what they're having to do, but I feel like either as a HBO Max series, or if you'd done the flashbacks right at the start of the film and then got into your story, I think it would have been more effective for me personally. Another issue I had was the visuals. So if you look at, here's a shot from the film, but here's a shot from the comic. The comic's incredibly visually appealing. It's like Andy Warhol pop art explosion. It's so good to look at. It's so vibrant. Every world looks different, really bright and colourful. For some reason in the film they were like, let's just do low saturation Mad Max mud fight. And then in the comics it's like, wow, pop explosion, pop art, incredible. And I think I really didn't gel with that, because the comic looks so distinct. And I actually feel like the comic version of Other Planets and Supergirl actually fits more with the DCU version of Superman than the film version fits with the DCU version of Superman. Just in a cinematography, colour palette, visually, it just fits more. So that's kind of weird. I don't know why they did that, and it's probably down to hiring perhaps the wrong director for the job. I also had an issue with the soundtrack. So there's some really great song choices in here. A lot of songs I hadn't heard, which is nice to see. Really great inclusion of Wet Leg Catch These Fists and Wolf Alice Smile. But the final song is a cover of is it The Middle by Jimmy Eat World. It's actually been said now that this wasn't the director's choice. James Gunn chose this song because they were struggling with the song choice. That's kind of worrying because, to be honest, the song is bafflingly terrible. It just doesn't work at all. Really takes you out of the movie. It's really stupid and it feels like it's trying to be comedic when it's meant to be. It's like a slow motion, almost Zack Snyder sort of shot with cool action and Supergirl jumping around. But the song choice just takes you out of it. You don't know, is the song about Supergirl, Ruth? It's really slow and it's boring. It sort of takes the impact out of the scene, which is action packed and really full of like fun, epic moments. And then you've just got this really weird, slow ballady version of a good rock song. You could have just put the normal version in. I think it might have worked more, but I also think either I think keep it score. You don't need a soundtrack, and I do worry that James Gunn taking over the DCU does mean every film's going to have about 50 needle drops. Not every film needs it. I don't think this film needed as many as it has. A lot of them are good, but it doesn't need it. Um, so overall though, I did really enjoy this movie. I feel like I've sounded really negative, but the thing is, it's a fun time, and compared to, see if you look at some MCU movies recently, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, for example, all the basically Disney Plus shows, most of them anyway, apart from a few like Loki, it's much better than that. It's different, it's a different vibe. The story is a bit different structurally. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot darker. I maybe wouldn't suggest this for younger audiences. There's elements in this which aren't from the comic that they inserted in here and seem, I think, overly grim. Sort of what the villains in here do. They're sort of traffickers, and it's a touch too far for me, to be honest. That's the problem as well with the villain, is they maybe take him too far. So I wouldn't recommend for like all families to see this. I think it would be worth, if you're wanting to take your kids, watching it yourself and seeing if you think it's okay for a certain age range. But I did have a lot of fun with this movie. I think Millie Alcock and Jason Momoa are absolutely perfect casting. I think there's a really fun story here. It's really fast paced. It's really frenetic. They just could have, I think, a different director and tightening up the script in terms of how you do the approach to giving all your backstory and making sure it doesn't take you out of the film. And that terrible final song choice, if you'd taken that out completely, I think it would have went up. For me, I give it 3 out of 5, closer to like a 3.5. I think if you'd fixed just a couple of these problems, it easily would have been a 4. So it's not quite as good as Superman, but I think DCU is still 2 for 2 in my opinion. I still had a really good time. Compared to what I was hearing, I think it was really good. So there you go. There's my thoughts on Supergirl. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Cheers. See you next time at Oscars Reviews, and next week will be another Bonkers B movie.